Please, Paul, go ahead, please.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Fateh. We have the pleasure today of inviting, and Paul is very kind, Paul Robb, to join our session. I had the pleasure of meeting Paul maybe about 8 to 10 years ago. And before that happened, I think maybe 6 months before that, we all kind of sit and sometimes we are talking and connecting. Malik, God, Creator, it'll be very nice if you would be kind enough to somebody in our life, whom that we have, whom you have shown yourself. This way we can kind of see, what it's like, because the Bani says he is invisible, but he is also visible to whom he wishes to show. So Paul had come to one of the events, NDE, near-death experience, and then he talked about his journey and how things happened. I was very much blessed, and I realized, whoa, so somebody is really listening, man. Somebody is really making things happen in the back there. And then we had invited Paul to come to our home for dinner, and we had a great time. And then Praveen Gupta also was on the session here. Him and his wife had also invited him to come to their house, and they had like maybe 15, 20 people. I had a great time. Vanita is also on the line here, so she also had the pleasure of meeting with him. So we have been very lucky and blessed. I feel very lucky and blessed to have known him and all of you guys, because you're all trying to connect to the Creator and request for the kindness and blessings so that we all walk in the same path. So at this point, I would humbly request and suggest, Paul, if you would take over and share your journey. If you want to keep it open, you can keep it open so people can ask questions while you're talking, or you can say, let me finish my discussion for whatever time, and then question and answer can be later, whatever works for you. So we have till about 11 o'clock. The session is all yours, Paul.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Robb, and I want to tell you a little bit about the path that I've taken that brought me to where we live today. I was born in 1940 during the Battle of Britain. Those of you who know history know what that is. And so today I am 81 years old. And you're supposed to say, oh, you look so good to be 81 years old. But at any rate, my parents at the time were young, unmarried, well, just married, and they had to get married, and I was maybe, and the family that I was born into were Methodists. That's how it is in Oklahoma, or it was. My parents decided to switch to the Episcopal Church when I was 2, and to the Catholic Church when I was 3. So for whatever it means, guys, I've been baptized 3 times. Like something unusual here. I attended Catholic schools from the 3rd grade through all the way through college. I went to college at Notre Dame and began a career as an engineer, and initially in Rochester, New York, and finally in 1967 we moved to Lockheed here in California, and I've been at Lockheed ever since. The events that I'm about to describe to you happened to me without any effort or involvement with me alone. I did nothing. All I was doing was reading. After we had gotten here in California, being a black belt Roman Catholic, I became curious about church history. And so I started reading, went to the library and found 2 books that contained the Bishops Imprimatur, which stated it was approved for reading by Catholics. And I was horrified at what I saw. The God that they preached was vicious, nasty, vengeful, cruel, you name it. And of course, they were talking about themselves, not about God. But I don't think they knew that. Anyway, one day in February 1967, I was sitting in the living room. Paul actually has a picture of the house, reading a book whose title I've long forgotten. And I'm sitting there reading, and all of a sudden I hear this sound like the wind blowing through cottonwood trees. Now, those of you who have been around cottonwood trees, as I was when I was a kid, It makes a very peculiar sound when the wind goes through, a lot of high frequency content. So I hear this rushing sound, and I looked over to my right to see what it was. And standing there about 8 or 9 feet away stood God, a very handsome, large, powerful man, but with a big, happy smile. I was stunned. I didn't know what to do, but I did stand up. There's no way I could have remained sitting. Do you want to see me come up a chair in a hurry? If you'd been there, you would have seen that. But the thought went through my mind, I wonder if I should kneel. It's Catholic upbringing. And I got God's response, an entire sentence all at once. That's not the kind of relationship God wants with his children. So I remained standing. We began walking towards each other, and he put out his hands, and he took my hands in his. His hands were the size of an NFL basketball player. He could have palmed the basketball without any difficulty at all because his hands were that big. But he held my hands. And I could see then what this God was really like. Kindness poured out of him like water, like waterfall over Niagara Falls. It was just pouring out. And I stood there kind of, I wouldn't say stupefied, but I just stood there looking at it. And he said to me, take a look around. So I did. I took a look around. I looked to see if there was the Holy Trinity. Nope, didn't exist. I looked to see if there was hell. Did not exist. I need to see, well, about the atonement. Does God keep track of all of the things we do wrong? Nope, that's not there either. What is there is just a good, kind, loving God. None of the negativity that we've been taught to believe in these Christian religions. It was a huge breakthrough for me because I had always, at some level, been afraid. You know, if you eat meat on Friday and if you die before getting to a priest to get your sins forgiven, you go to hell. And I'm thinking, this doesn't make any sense. Why would God do that? And as God said to me once, why would I treat one of my children this way? They teach on the one hand that I'm their father, and then they talk about me as I'm a vicious, cruel torturer. And of course, God is not like that at all. We were standing about a foot apart, and I had to tip my head up like that to make eye contact as we talked, which allowed me to calculate his height. He was about 6'8" or 6'10", and large muscles, very handsome man, wearing a brown robe and had the blue eyes. With the immense kindness that poured out of him, I realized just this is what God is really like. What's all this crap that I've been taught? And of course, I didn't have an answer. It's just that I have something in addition to that crap that now I have, and I just stayed with it. It's when I took a look around, it was just amazing because I could see, like the Holy Trinity, it was just like letters on the wall. It meant nothing. The atonement meant nothing. Hell meant nothing. The only thing that God is interested in from us is that we learn to behave. Here on earth, it's a great big school, and we are expected to learn how to love one another and to treat each other in a kind and loving way. And unfortunately, there's a lot that goes on in the world that isn't that way, but that's what we were taught that God wants us to believe. Let me look up this other thing here. As I was standing there with my hands being held, it occurred to me, you know, this is God and I can ask questions. And what I thought I would like to ask is to explain to me the relationship between quantum electrodynamics and Einstein's theory of relativity. That's, you know, the big question in physics nowadays, how do these two relate? I didn't know. I'm an engineer. I'm not a physicist. I wanted to ask that of God, but I thought, you know, I might not understand his answer because I'm an engineer, not a physicist. So I thought, I've been wondering about time since I was a kid. So I asked him, what's time like for you? And he smiled, and all of a sudden this panorama appeared in front of me, 2000 BC on my right, present day, 1968 on my left. And there was this unbelievable panorama of scenes, everything happening at the same time. ladies, mothers giving birth to children, men fighting each other in duels, wars going on, just the whole thing of history spread out in front of me, and I stared at it, and I thought, oh man. So I turned to him and said, what do you do with all this? And he just smiled with that lovely smile of his. And as I was getting tired, he gradually, very slowly moved back from me. What happened there? I see two hands.
దీన్ని I see two hands అంటున్నాడు ఆ ఫోటో చూసి.
No, this is just somebody who's joined. So
Anita, hi Anita.
hi, Paul. Yeah, I had asked my friend Sandeep to join. So when he joined, his image had flashed up. Sandeep, can you mute yourself? Go ahead, Paul.
And
Okay.
I'm trying to see where he is.
Hello, am I there?
Okay,
Yes.
he's muted.
It's
Go
in
ahead,
here.
Paul.
Taranji, is that you?
Okay,
Okay,
carry on, please.
somebody want to put me back on?
Yeah, yeah,
Paul, what's going on?
yeah, you're fine. Paul, can you hear us?
Nothing's wrong. You can just talk right now.
Well, I see Taranji's face here, but I've been seeing my face.
Do you want to see your face?
Yeah,
Here, I'll do that for you. Okay.
okay.
Yeah, we can see you.
Oh, well, I want to see me.
Maybe your camera is, video is turned off.
What did Vanita do? She arrived here, I see her name on the screen, and then I'm gone. At any rate, I want to emphasize before we move on to the next thing I want to tell you about. I had absolutely nothing to do with any of this. I didn't pray for it. It never occurred to me such a thing could even be possible. But there I was, and it happened, and I watched and I saw God. I realized what God is, and it completely changed my worldview, my view of God, religion, right and wrong, you name it. The thing that hit me too, that Father had showed me, he is not interested in punishing anybody. He's interested in rehabilitation. So we can have the worst scoundrels here on earth that die, and when they are in God's, when they die and they are in front of God, what God tries to work out with them is how can we change you so you know how to better behave. I think there's quite a few people in the world today that might could use that kind of education. But at any rate, for the rest of us, if you eat meat on Friday, you go to hell, you burn in hell for all eternity. That's the Catholics. And that's not God. So with that, I will stop for a second here. And if there are any questions, and then we can go into the next material I want to tell you about.
So Paul, this is Vanita. I wanted to ask you, how did you know that it's God? It's not like, it's not another being, you know, like a ascended master or some angel. How did you know that it is God?
Well, he told me he was, and I certainly could understand that. I didn't have any question in my mind to see anything else. Is he a devil in disguise? No, it's just God.
Okay, so he identified himself.
Yeah, he didn't
Okay.
he didn't do it in words, but he did it so I understood it.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you. Nice to see you.
Same here.
Hey, Paul, this is Shekhar. The question is, you may have already said it. Is that during daytime or nighttime? What time was that when you had this vision?
About 2:00 in the afternoon, Sunday.
Okay, okay. So it's like you were pretty much wide awake, and it just happened. It just happened on a daytime, and nothing in terms of dreams or anything.
It happened on a Sunday afternoon. I was wide awake and I was astounded when all this took place.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. After this event, which was a Sunday afternoon, some changes took place in me. And one of them was I didn't know it, but I became very psychic. I could walk along the sidewalk, and when I came near a street lamp, it switched off. And as I walked past it and I got past it on the other side, it came back on. Now, luckily, I had read about this happening to other people, so it didn't spook me too badly. But that's how it went this way for about 2 years, and then gradually faded. Another thing, and this is a funny story, it happened at work. In those days, we engineers worked in a bullpen, and we had a secretary there whose name was Katie. Katie was a very nice young lady. She always seemed to be smiling, a very happy person. And she was unusual for women in those days because she liked to race Triumph race cars, sports cars on the weekends. But everybody liked her, and the inevitable happened. She met a guy, and they got together and got married, and she became pregnant. And one day in February of that year, I came into work and I announced to everyone, well, guys, Katie had her baby last night. It was 8 pounds, 3 ounces. They named him Brian, and the mother and baby are doing fine. And everybody said, oh, gee, thanks, Paul. And that was that. 3 weeks later, her friend Diane comes in. Well, guys, Katie had her baby last night. He weighed 8 pounds, 3 ounces, and named him Brian. I said, Diane, what are you talking about? That baby was born 3 weeks ago. She says, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? At that, I realized that somehow or other, my mind had just reached out in space and figured out where Katie was going to be in 3 weeks and then reported it as though it was a present. And the unfortunate part about it is I didn't know this. I thought that what I had seen was the absolute truth. And so there at work, everybody's staring at me. So I got them and hid in the bathroom for half an hour. Another small thing, we had a meeting one day in a conference room, and when it was over, I saw on the table a very nice, expensive fountain pen. And I could tell from the colors that it was giving off that it belonged to this particular guy. So I picked it up, took it in his office, said, here, Bob, here's your pen. Paul, how'd you know it was mine? Well, I don't know. I guess I just knew. That's all I could say. But give me just a second. I need to consult my notes here. I'd asked him to, near the end of this visit, why me? I mean, there's got to be lots of people in the world better qualified than I am to have an experience like you're giving me here. And he said, well, who else did you have in mind? Dropped it back in my lap. I said, well, how about Pope John the 23rd or Pope John Paul? He said, even if I had appeared to them as I did to you, they would have been imprisoned by their doctrines and they wouldn't have gone anywhere. I said, well, how about Billy Graham? Same problem. What I needed was someone who would report what he saw, without adding anything or leaving anything out. And engineers do this. How many engineers do you suppose I had to choose from? That's you. I said, oh, well, hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Excuse me just a second. I need to consult my notes here. For the first few years, I had this all in my head. I didn't need to look up anything, but nowadays, I guess I need to look it up. I'm getting older. That's probably a symptom. But a couple of psychic experiences. Another one, I've forgotten what the year was. I think it was 1990, something like that. The stock market had managed to do what it does. It had gone down 25% that year. And I had worked hard at it and I had lost 12%. And one of my sons, who's a finance specialist, said, Dad, you did great. You beat the market by 10 points. I said, Steve, I didn't do this to lose money. This is bugging me. And I got to thinking about it. And I thought, well, let's go to Father about it. So I said, Father, you see what's happened? I've been so busy this year. I haven't been able to keep up with what I was doing. And so I managed to lose money this year in the market. Can you suggest something for me? He said, certainly, buy REITs. So REITs are, for those of you who don't know what this is, they're real estate investment trusts. They are companies which own property or own land or sometimes lenders, but they're real estate oriented companies. So I took all of our money that we had and I sold it and put the money into REITs. 4 years later, our money had tripled. How's that for a stock market trip? Time went on and I had several friends who kept encouraging me to write this book, which is a collection. It's up front, it leads off of what happened to me, the story you just heard. And then there are 150 stories written by people who have had experiences similar to this. And some of them are spectacular. Some of them are just kind of quiet and calm, but I want to read you this one. This is one of my favorites. This was written by a woman about an event that happened when she was 12 years old. She said, I used to come home after school and no one would be home for about 3 hours. I had a routine of chores to do every day. Then one day I felt someone was tapping me on the shoulder. He was friendly and kind, seemed to know all about me. He would sort of guide my thoughts on matters. For example, he'd want to know how my day went at school. And when I tell him, he'd share advice about what things matter most and what kind of person I should be. But he also had a sense of humor and made me laugh. Unfortunately, I cannot recall full detailed conversations, but I remember this as a short, precious period of time in my life. It went on for a month or two. It dramatically changed me in my life. I felt guided in my life, and I still do. She wrote this event happened when she was 12. Here's another one. I've been so impressed by the immense patience God seems to show. I may desert him for years, but whenever I turn back, he always seems to be there waiting. I think prayer is a question of leaving oneself open to the answer that may come, often unexpected and not what we wanted. Yet it always leaves me with awe, reverence, and gladness that I made the effort. That seems to be the point. We have to make the initial effort. We are then met more than halfway, but he never intrudes on us. He waits for us to approach him. I guess I would say this has been kind of consistent in my life because I've had a very large number of experiences with Father, but I never asked for any of them except for the stock market one. And that was me being very frustrated with how things had gone. But we put all this together, and a good friend of mine had pushed me to put this in a book. I was reluctant because I know how problematic this sort of thing can be. And my family in Tulsa were practically all either Methodists or Roman Catholics. The Methodists are better, the Catholics are harder to deal with, but that's what they were and still are. And so I was reluctant. I didn't want there to be conflict with my family or anything. But anyway, finally I decided I better go to Father and ask him what to do about this. So I said, what would you like me to do, sir? And he said, I'd like you to write the book. I said, well, I've never done a book before, so I'm going to need help. I'll send help and I'll guide you. And that is exactly what happened. He sent 2 or 3 people to work with me, and we got the book going. And over a period of about a year and a half, we collected about 150 stories. These there's a group in England that was founded by a world-class biologist named Alistair Hardy. And Hardy was a brilliant and very well-known biologist. Towards the end of his career, he decided he wanted to move away from the science end of things and start studying spirituality. And his friends thought he was crazy, that science and religion are opposite, leave them alone, and so on and so on. But anyway, he went ahead, got together at the group, and after about 10 years had gone by, they collected 5,000 accounts like this, and he published them in a book. And I used about 30 or 40 of those in this book that I did.
Paul, can I ask you a question while you're looking at your notes? You said that God said, yes, go ahead and write the book. Mm-hmm. So was he still communicating with you telepathically, or was he manifesting?
Most of the time it's telepathic. Very rarely I hear the words in my ears.
Okay.
So the book came out at the end of 2006, early 2007. And I gave a copy to our minister, Reverend Irene, and she read it. And the next Sunday I saw her and she said, Paul, would you, I'm a minister. My job is to minister to our congregants. They need to know what you've got in this book. Would you tell them about it next Sunday during services? And I said, yeah, sure. So next Sunday, I'm giving a talk in front of the group. And it was very interesting. You're up front, you can see everybody's face. Three or four of the women were weeping, tears going down and spoiling their makeup. The men all look like someone, they look stunned. They look like someone hit them over the head with a club or something, just stunned. And afterwards, I talked to quite a few people who said, yeah, they'd had experiences like this, and I wrote them down. And then I had a little breathing room, so I leaned back against the wall, and my friend Joan comes up, and Joan can be a very forceful lady. She's got her arms folded like this. She says, Paul, we want to know, don't you ever see God as a woman? And I started to say, well, Joan, as I was just saying, the God that I met is either male or female. And there she stood. God is a woman, the most spectacularly beautiful woman you will ever dream of seeing. Kindness just pouring out of her. She knew she had caught me in an awkward moment, and I could see from the twinkle in her eye, she was having fun with it. I don't know what else she had in mind she might do, but that was as far as she went, luckily. But this torrent of goodness, kindness, graciousness just poured out of her. And I wanted to finish what I'd been saying to Joan so as not to be rude, but I couldn't talk. I was just speechless. It takes a lot to get me to be speechless, but she did it. She did it real well. She appeared to be, let's see what I got here. She had large blue eyes, a broad, wonderful smile, and was very gentle and kind and graceful. And for you ladies, the dress she was wearing was blue, matching her eyes. And with ankle length, sleeveless, with a small V-neck. She appeared to be about 25 or 30 years old. But at the same time, you could tell from her demeanor that she was very definitely in charge. There's no question about that. This was a very powerful woman, beautiful, kind, and powerful. So I knew that she disappeared then, but before she left, she told me, I'll be back later today. So I thought, oh, okay. So I went home and said my prayers and began reading, not doing much. And about 4 o'clock, I know she's coming back. So I got up, I ran like mad to the bathroom, locked the door, sat down on the edge of the tub, and there she was. She appeared. How's that for a venue right there in the restroom? But anyway, she came standing in front of me, and I said to her, I can see that calling you father or dad isn't quite going to work here. What would you like for me to call you? And she replied, you reserve the word mother for your earthly mother, so I'd like you to call me mom. But she said that word mom, it's like it opened a floodgate of tears in me. I cried and cried and cried. I couldn't talk for quite some time. But finally I was able to think. And I said to her, all these years I've known you as father or dad, why the switch? And she replied, you have a large hole in your psyche with regard to your mother, and I'm going to fill it. Also, the women of today are feeling left out, and I'm going to change this. And then she said, I'd like you to convey this message to everyone. And she gave me this message, this entire paragraph, just like that. They can do this. I don't think I can. I wouldn't know where to begin, but anyway. Here's her message. She said, please, I want to be involved in your lives in the small everyday things, not just when difficulties appear or troubles arise. At times like these, I am, of course, always with you, but I'm speaking to the small everyday things. For example, if you see a beautiful sunset, turn to me and say, Mom, look at this beautiful sunset. If you see a beautiful flower, say to me, Mom, look at this beautiful flower. If you see a small child running across the grass in the park, giving his mother a hard time, say to me, Mom, look at this beautiful little child. this is what I'm asking of you. Well, I got her message, and I realized in a hurry that this is exactly what I need to do. So I've been doing it ever since. This was in 07, so it's been seven or 8 years since then. But I wasn't aware that I had a hole in my psyche, but once she filled it, yes, I could see that. That makes sense. My parents were young people, and they did what young people do and shouldn't do. And she became pregnant, and a baby was born about 8 months later, I guess 7 or 8 months later. And yet, always inside, I felt funny, like I didn't belong here. Like it's kind of hard to put into words, but for years, but my birthday, July 26th, for me was my day of shame. Now, how can it be a baby's day of shame? It's got to be the mother's day of shame. But I picked up the mother's thoughts. So anyway, that I talked to her as friend and mom, and our relationship is delightful. This is who we pray to each night, and whatever we seem to need, she takes care of. It is a very nice way to run your life if you have God close by like this. It certainly works for me, and life is not free of issues, shall we say, but if you have your friend with you there, your spirit friend, and help you have the right attitude toward the issues, they kind of go away, they kind of fade. But let me and this is back to father, not mom. Father did this, I guess, maybe about a year or 2 years after he had appeared. We had acquired some property in Redwood City, 2 small apartment buildings, and we're treating them as an investment. So you make your money off appreciation, not so much off cash flow. But anyway, one morning I wake up, I got to back up. That same year, I had come down with prostate cancer, and so it had to be fixed. And so I had to do radiation. Now, radiation doesn't hurt, but it makes you so tired you can hardly blink your eyes. You just really, really tired. And this lasts for several months. So at that point in time, I wake up in the morning and get my eyes open, and I look, and there stands Father. And he's smiling at me, and he goes, "Hi, time to sell the apartments." I go, "Father, I'm so tired I can hardly move. And apartments, selling those is an awful lot of work." "I know, but it's time to sell them." He disappeared. So I went back to sleep. The next morning, I open my eyes, there stands Father. "Hi, time to sell the apartments." I go, "Father, are you sure? I'm still so tired I can hardly move." "I know, but it's time to sell them." Disappeared. Okay, third day comes around. I open my eyes, there's Father. "Hi, time to sell the apartments." I said, "Okay, Father, I'll call the guy I know." And he didn't come back anymore after that on that topic, but we sold the apartments. My workload didn't increase until the following February when I was able to handle it. And we sold them at the top of our market and put the money into properties back east at the bottom of their market. So it couldn't have worked out better. But he told us what to do. I did it, and it worked out real well. I'd asked this back to mom, I'd asked her to, "Do you ever feel things like joy and sorrow and anger and stuff like that?" And she replied, "Well, certainly joy and sorrow, but anger, never. Anger is almost always fear-based, and I do not have fear." You think about that, go through life without fear? Something perhaps we could learn from her, I don't know, but that's what she said she does. And it's completely consistent with the character of God that I've been able to observe. Good and kind and loving and thoughtful and considerate and wanting to be helpful to us. But definitely not anger, no criticism, no keeping track of our wrongs, No playing like an account. No, you did this, you did that, and so on. There's none of that. The teachings of the church could not be further from the mark in this whole thing. Yet, what do? Do you write the Pope and say, "Hey, bud, this is what I've seen"? I don't think so. I don't plan to. But there are people over the world over who have had these experiences like me, like I put in the book, and hopefully this will someday seep into their consciousness. We'll see. Along about this time too, she began bringing to me discarded spirits who were lost, and they're there in the spirit world. They don't know where to go or what to do or anything. It's just like they're just hanging there without any goal or guidance or anything. So she started bringing them to me, and I started talking to them, and I found that I could get through to these guys pretty well. Usually it's a group, and I say to them, like, I introduce myself and I say, "Can I see from you guys, can I see a show of hands? How many of you like where you're living?" No hands go up. "Well, how many of you would like to go to a very nice place to live?" All hands go up. So I say, "Well, okay, I can tell you exactly what to do to get you there, but you got to listen to me and you got to pay attention to what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you is you've got to talk to God about it. Here's what you say. Dear Father, I need your help. I don't know where to go or what to do, and I don't know what to do, and I need your help. Please help me." You do that, and you'll be out of here. So they do it, and sure enough, they vanish. I don't know where God takes them, but I know it's a much more pleasant place than this place where they've been hanging out at. This gradually started out with just a group of us, 25 or so former soldiers, and it went to 125, and then it got to the whole park was full. And one night I saw something which almost stunned me. She had asked me earlier in the evening, "Would you go to the park tonight?" And I said, "Sure." So I got there about 8 or 9 o'clock. It was dark. And I sat down on these bleachers where I sit. And I didn't see anything. I looked out over the park and I just saw the lights and stuff on the grass, and that's all I saw. But then very slowly, very gradually, it was as though human figures began to appear, ghostly like figures. And so I didn't do anything. I just stared. And finally, the figures resolved themselves into long lines of soldiers, former German SS soldiers, standing in these huge lines, wearing their black uniforms and with their uniform hats on that had a death's head thing up at the top to show what they were like. There were probably 5,000 or 6,000 of these people, former SS, they're trapped in the spirit world, not knowing where to go. And I turned to her and said, "Mom, I don't know what to say to these guys. All they can think of is killing." And she said, "Well, just talk, you'll be fine." So I did. I introduced myself as usual, and I said, "Can I see a show of hands? How many of you guys like where you're living?" No hands. "How many of you would like to go to a very nice place I have in mind? If you'll follow my directions," all the hands go up. So I started talking to them. I noticed one guy kind of near the front. His name was Gunter. I don't know how I knew that. I just did. I said, "Gunter, you're a very handsome man. I cannot believe as a German girl that you remain single and without any kids." And he said, "Yes, my wife and I had 4 children. The oldest was 12, the youngest was 4, and they all died along with my parents when the English firebombed Hamburg. When we got the news of what had happened, we went crazy, killing anyone we could find for revenge. And look where we've ended up." I said, "Well, I'll tell you something, Gunter. The past doesn't have any meaning right now. What does have a meaning is how you relate to the person I need you to relate to. You need to pray." He says, "How do I pray?" I said, "Like this. Dear Father, I need your help. I'm all alone here. I don't know where to go or what to do, and I need your help. Please help me." You do that, and he'll pull you out of here. So Gunter did it, and he vanished. Now, this did not go unnoticed by the rest of the group. So I said, "Okay, you want to say the prayer yourself?" They did. So it was like they left in groups, group here gone, group there gone, group here gone, and so on. until finally, after just a few minutes, all but a few stragglers were gone. The stragglers were too stubborn. They weren't about to do anything for anybody. So I turned back to Mom. She's standing right in front of me, about this far away. Held me very tightly around the neck and burst into tears. I thought, I can't believe this. This is God, and she's crying. And I wanted to first, my nature, I wanted to fix her, but then I realized these are tears of joy. That's why she's crying. And so she cried and cried and cried. It would have gone on for probably 5 or 10 minutes. I could feel them dripping down my face. Along with this came an incredible feelings of warmth and kindness from her, but just crying. Finally, she stopped. And I said, "Are you okay now?" She says, "Yes, I'm fine." And then we walked home together. That's the first and only time she's ever walked with me, or that I've been aware of anyway. I got home and went in the front door. My wife was there, and I said, "You would not believe what I just saw tonight." She cried, and Pam looked at me and says, "Tears of joy." She knew. My wife is good that way. Has an insight that I don't necessarily have. I had gotten to know several spirits. You can believe that. One was a former Confederate soldier named Joshua, and a very, very good man, completely concerned about the welfare of his soldiers, and just a really, really good man. We got to be friends, and as time went on, he became acquainted with an angel whose name was Rachel. One night I was walking towards my prayer place, and the two of them appeared walking next to me, and I said to him, "Joshua, how are you doing? You look tired." He says, "Yeah, I am." I said, "Well, where are you staying?" He says, "Rachel has prepared a place for me." Now, this is code, but what it means is they're getting married. The next day, they appeared to me, and I was watering the tomatoes, and they said, "We're getting married this Saturday, and we'd like you to attend the wedding." And I said, "Well, how on earth would I do that?" "The wedding will be held at St. Joseph's Cathedral downtown, and it will be at 4 o'clock, so you can be there. So just go and you'll be fine." So Saturday afternoon at 3:30, I drove down to St. Joseph's Cathedral, went in and sat down. And at 4 o'clock, this group of angels walks in, 10 in front, 10 in back, and the married couple in between. They walked into the church, sat down right in front of me. And then the marriage couple, Rachel and Joshua, walked up to a platform in the middle, and then Father appeared. And he was so beautiful, it made me cry. I couldn't help it. But he greeted everyone, and he became the master of ceremonies, or the preacher, if you will, for this wedding. And afterwards, they came back walking towards me. Father had gone for some reason. And I walked with them out of the church. Afterwards, there was a lady there who was one of the assistant ushers. I've forgotten her name, but she comes up to me and she says, "Where'd you go today? I was watching you. You went someplace during church." I said, "Yeah, I did." "Where'd you go?" I said, "Well, I went to heaven. I was attending a wedding." "You were attending a wedding in heaven?" "Yep." "Who conducted the service?" "God did, Father." "Well, I guess I've heard them all now. You were attending a wedding and God was a master." "Yeah, that's exactly right." So that was that experience. I didn't even try to argue with her or anything. I just, say what you like, think what you like. I was attending their wedding. It was a wonderful experience, and I'll do it again if I get a chance. So we're kind of coming to the end of this this group of experiences that I have had. Here's one that I want to tell you of. I was sitting in the front porch one night in August, and expecting someone to appear, as they almost always did, and I saw a group about 11:30 or midnight. It was kind of late. I saw a group of young Persian women slowly materialize there. They were all sitting on carpet patches, square carpet patches, one patch per girl, and they each sat down on those patches. I guess they took them with them, but that's what they used to be comfortable when they sat. And I asked the leader, I don't remember her name, but I asked her, what happened to you guys? She says, well, we don't know. We got sick and almost all of our friends died. We didn't die, but our legs were crippled and we were useless. Our parents were arranging husbands for us, and look at us now. I questioned them, and it seemed that probably polio had swept through the community, killing most of the victims and maiming the rest. These women were not ostracized, but were cared for by their families. That was good to see. They were given work as weavers and seamstresses. All of them blamed God, Ahura Mazda, in their tradition for this awful tragedy. Somehow, Mom's doing, they were able to listen when I told them Ahura Mazda wanted you to leave and go to the home that he had prepared for them. I gave them a short prayer. They were wonderfully receptive, and 9 of the 10 were able to pray, and they disappeared. That left one. The next night, the straggler appeared. Her name was Ateria, but her friends called her Ati. She was a pretty young woman with large black eyes and black hair, and was so morose and depressed. She believed that God had caused this calamity and could not see how it could be otherwise. She could not bring herself to pray. I was told to put her on my lap, which I did. And I held her with her head against my chest, and I could see and feel her tiny little useless legs, and I felt a great warmth for her. I held her for a few minutes and then asked, Ati, would you like for Ahura Mazda to come get you? She replied, yes. I said, well, you just need to ask. Just say, please. She replied, please. Mom picked her up, put her on her left shoulder, and whisked her away. I thought this was the end of the matter, but it wasn't. A few minutes passed, and Nurse Helen is an angel. Nurse Helen appeared. She refuses to cooperate, and she insists on seeing you. So I went to the treatment room. Ati was laying on her back on the bed, supporting herself on her elbows, refusing very stubbornly to lay down. She saw me and leaped in my arms. I held her briefly. We put her on her back and started to try to get her to lay down so Mom and Naziel could take care of her. In the meantime, Helen had walked around the bed and restored Ati's legs. Helen can do this by just waving her hand over. So Ati's legs, which before had been twisted and polio dead, she just waved her hand like that, and Ati's legs came back. So I said to Ati, I said, take a look at your legs. She looks down, she says, my legs, I am whole again. She leaped off the bed, began standing next to the bed, began bouncing up and down like a small child, just jumping, leaping, boom, 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 boom. Everyone in the room saw this and cried, seeing how joyful this child was. I picked Ati up again and put her back on the bed, and I told her, you need to lay here and pay attention to what Helen is telling you. You may need to sleep for a little bit. Okay, she did. And that was the end of it. Ati was a lovely young girl, full of energy and vitality, very articulate and pleasant. Polio had robbed her of her life. Her legs were useless and her pelvis was deformed. She would not have been able to walk even if her legs had been undamaged, but she was healed. I saw her 2 or 3 other times over the years. She would just drop in and say hi. So I'd drop in and say hi. And I said, hi, nice to see you. And that was how that went. Here's one of them, experience with a famous person. I was standing here in the dining room where we're at now, where Greg is. facing the living room, and all of a sudden I felt a very powerful presence, huge, powerful presence behind me. It filled the dining room. I couldn't see anybody, but I didn't like the feeling of being someone behind me. So I asked Ozzy for help and move it back, but nothing happened. I don't know why. Anyway, after I was finished with the other person, I turned to see who it was. Well, it was William Butler Hickok, otherwise known as Wild Bill Hickok. He was living in the darkness and I had no idea where he was or why he was there. He had died in 1876, shot in the back of the head from behind. He was a man who had lived a life of violence and killing, as many as 36 men, but he had pacified a number of frontier towns. This would have been the source of the powerful personality I saw. I found him to be soft-spoken and pleasant, and I introduced myself and explained to him what was going on. We talked briefly. I taught him to pray, and an angel took him away. He went out of his way to thank me before Helen put him back to sleep. That was a very nice feeling. Another famous person, Steve Jobs. After Steve had died in 2011, about a week or 10 days after, I woke up at 3:13 a.m. This was not a dream. It was Steve Jobs. He said, "I've come to thank you for praying for me," which is what I'd been doing. I replied that I was so grateful for the things he had given us, indicating the iPod on my chest, and I wanted to make sure he was okay. And then he vanished. The next night at the same time, he appeared again. He was in a house, very modern construction. It was very dark. He was dressed in his black shirt and jeans. He showed me a top view of the house. It was slightly rectangular and had 2 stories. There was a stairway leading to the second story just inside the front entrance. He said he had shown this to his wife, but she didn't like it because it was too square. But he had pushed and gotten his own way in spite of her objections. And that was it. That afternoon, we had a conversation. He was being counseled by an angel whose name is Amy, who was having trouble with the emphasis on love. And he was very much accustomed to having his own way, dictating no matter what, and didn't like being told what to do by Amy. I explained to him that love was all that the angels know. And it took some doing, but he did get it. I ended up accompanying him at his request to Angel Helen's clinic, and I introduced him to Ozzy Alandina. Helen repaired his body while we talked. He was smiling and she put him to sleep. It was nice meeting Steve Jobs. I didn't think I'd ever have a chance for that, but I did. Another famous person, Maria Callas, the singer. I'm hearing her singing, and I thought, is there somebody else on this block that's got music taste like I have? I didn't think there were. But
Paul,
three-
quick question. Do you know how much longer? Because this session lasts about 11 o'clock. It'll extend a little bit more. So maybe if you want to open the question for audience, if they have any questions to ask you, or if you want to continue, depending how much more you want to continue. It's up to you.
yeah, let's stop for questions. Anyone have a question for me?
I do have some question. In a sense, all the visions and people whom you have met, does this come first time you said God came to you without even you praying or you did anything, you were just reading a book and he came into your field?
That's right.
Subsequent ones, did you have anything to do in terms of prayer or wish or anything in terms of thought process that you were in a particular frame of mind that these people came into your thing, or also happened spontaneously? That is one question. Second question is, you have seen God in both forms, like man and a woman.
Yes.
Which one you like better and why?
I had become very attached to Father after being with him for 20 plus years. But one evening, I was talking to both of them. Think about that. And Father said, I'd like you to begin working more with her than with me. And I said, whatever you say, I know you're right, but I don't exactly like it. And she laughed and said, you'll like me, come on. And with that, I rarely saw Father, but I saw her all the time. And she's been very, very helpful, if something isn't going well, if I'm not getting along with somebody or something, she always has something to say that straightens it out. It's like having a mom that is your perfect mom that has only your welfare in her mind. Oh, your second question, do I put myself in a particular state of mind? No, I do not. I just sit down and I don't know what I do. I just sit down and I think about mom, and I sort of I send a message. If there's anything I can do, I'm willing, and that's it. But I don't get hypnotized or anything like that. I did an experiment with her once too. I'm talking to her. She's standing kind of nearby, and I'm talking to her. So I thought, is it my mind's eye that's seeing her, or is it my regular eyes? So I shut off my regular eyes, and she was still there. And that told me that she was communicating directly with my visual cortex.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. You answered both my questions. Appreciate it.
Sure. Anybody else?
Hey, Tom, Bobby, Praveen, Charanjit, anyone else, Vanita, Dheeraj, please feel free to ask, because, we got, Paul will be happy to address them, because, important thing is it's an interactive session. So if you have any questions or thought that came up or that you want to address, it's a great time to, get them out of our thinking, shall we say.
I have one more question.
Mhm.
Do people contact you with their specific problems in terms of solutions? And is that something that you help them with? Or is it something that you get a message, you call the people the other way around and tell them the message? How does this thing work? Is it two-way or one-way?
Well, it's two-way, but it's two-way in this sense. I calm myself sitting in the porch or in the park or wherever, and then these spirits appear, and I can tell where they're at just because I can tell it, and I know that I'm expected to work with them if possible and help them get free, and that's what I do. But I don't call them up. I don't sit there and say, "Come on, Bill Hickok, I want to talk to you." I don't ever do that. I just let mom take care of it. I know she knows what she's doing far better than I ever could. So that's how I handle it.
No, my question was in terms of like, do people call you and tell you we have a problem, and is there something that you can help us with?
No,
No?
I don't experience that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Charanjit put a comment on the chat. Can you answer that one, please? Charanjit, can you ask the question?
Yeah, it was great. It was a very, very blissful hour spent together with Paul, and all of you, most of you, I have been meeting for the past few weeks. So I was wondering, I think someone already asked on this part, but my query was a bit before that, like, have you ever reflected upon this, Paul, that what was probably one good reason of getting this blissful connection with the all-loving Father?
So what's your question?
The question is, what is probably the one reason which Paul thinks of getting him connected to the source?
And what is the reason that I got connected?
Yes. Have you ever reflected on that? Why were you chosen to give such a blissful experience?
I don't know why me. I never knew. And that's when Father appeared after some years of wondering that. Well, who else did you have in mind?
So, okay, I don't know about, I'm sure all of us who are here, right, would like to have that direct connection right away as a hotline like you have.
Mhm.
So if you could help us getting the same experience and can speak on our behalf that, yes, we are very interested. We are very much, we would like to have that kind of connection where we could speak with him directly as I'm speaking with you. He could listen to us, we could listen to him, we could see everything what you have explained in your experience. So what should we do to have that kind of blissful direct connection, a hotline connection?
Well, since I don't really do anything, it's kind of hard to tell you. I am sure, though, that if you go to Divine Mom or the Father and ask him, that something will take place.
Sure, sure. No, my point is that since you have, okay, there is probably some reason why we are talking to each other today at this particular moment. So since you are the connection, right? So we are just requesting you to just speak on our behalf and make a request on our behalf. While we will also, like you very rightly said that initially some effort has to be made, right? That was very powerfully stated. So we will also continue our prayers, but is it possible for you to pray on our behalf and give the direct message as I'm speaking to you, that please give us the same experience, or if not, like whichever ladder of experiences he would like to take us to give us that ultimate experience which you have just described today. So blissful.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Mom would say, I'd like to hear from you directly.
Of course, we will make our initial effort, but
Yeah, rather than relying on an intermediary, me.
yeah.
Because
Okay.
I'm not exaggerating when I say I don't really do anything. I just sit, and then they bring them. Maybe it's my head has gotten into such, after meeting Father that time. Maybe it has altered my mind so that I'm able to do this. I don't know. I never really spent much time thinking about it. I just do it. I guess that's not a very satisfying answer for you, sorry.
No, it is. You gave a very nice analogy that when I'm seeing the sunrise or seeing the sunset or seeing anything beautiful in the nature, I'm saying, Mom, look at that. So I'm addressing her. While I'm talking to you, I'm definitely making at the same time a plea, a prayer, a supplication to her also, that look, how beautiful, how blissful person I'm meeting right now and talking to him. Keep me connected to this person and to your larger kingdom, which he has explained in his experiences. So I'm making that prayer simultaneously, right? It's not that I'm not connecting on those levels. If I've correctly understood you, but I would additionally, in addition to that, I would appreciate in case on our behalf, on the behalf of this group of people, can just make another plea to the loving Lord to give us that kind of experience.
शुक्र कर रहा है देखा राम ना रिलैक्स रहो ओके मैं
Paul, we're running 6 minutes over. I mean, do we have a limit or?
Well, I think limit is, there's really not an official limit, but if there's any questions, then obviously you can address. So, we always sometimes run into a few minutes over, 5, 10, 15 minutes. So I'm glad that you're able to answer questions. But Tom, any questions from you, Tom? Can't hear you, Tom. You mute. Tom, you got to unmute yourself.
Press the space bar. You got it.
Okay, so yeah, I did have a question. I haven't had the opportunity to read your book, but I was curious because, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I haven't had the opportunity to read your book, but to me, what happened to you was God recruited you. And I think he recruited you because you were open to it. You said yes immediately. You didn't question anything. In the stories in your books, were the stories of the people also about people that were recruited to do something for God, or were they something else?
Just something else. They were totally personal experiences. Rather than
God. You sound like you've been a soldier for God for decades, and you always left yourself open to it, and you never said no to it. I mean, I think God knew your heart, and I think that's why he chose you.
Well, I don't know my heart, so I'll take your word for it. I don't know. Where God is concerned, I don't tend to ask very many questions. If God does it, then I accept it.
See, there you go. Wow, you're a soldier.
Okay, well, that's a phrase I would like. Yeah, I like that. I'm a soldier, a God soldier.
You were recruited. Wow.
I would have thought he would have gotten somebody famous like, I don't know, Bill Gates or somebody who could talk to the Pope and say, you guys need to straighten your teachings out.
Humble too. I tell you, it's no, I think, God does the choosing, and he definitely knew who he was choosing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Wow.
Jared. I think you clarified a lot of stuff which I was having some kind of wavering. Yeah, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Paul, can I ask a question? I want to find out, I mean, can you at any time sort of go to the other side whenever you want? And also, secondary question is, if you have been the other side, how is it over there?
I've only been there a few times, 3 or 4. And the times that I have seen it, it is an absolutely gorgeous park. The grass has an intensity to it, green, that you don't see here on the earth. The flowers seem to give off almost a humming sound, and it is peaceful beyond peaceful. Just absolutely lovely, quiet, peaceful, and remarkably beautiful. One of my sisters, who died a few years ago, had actually come to me, and it was in this conversation with her that I was able to go to this place. But it's beautiful. I'll take it. I'll live there.
I mean, are there buildings and all the infrastructure that you have here?
It seems to be like a almost, I won't say a copy, but I think it's almost like a place that has its own features. It has buildings, it has roads, it has sidewalks for people to walk on. Although the people don't really walk, they seem to kind of float along. Many of the angel friends that I have seem to live in a very large apartment building, which is built in the shape of a U. And in the U, there is a park. So they all live around the outside. And it's beautiful. It's just as quiet and peaceful. And the people that are there, anyone you meet, they just give off love. I did have one experience along this line, which is, I'll pass on to you. I have an angel that I work with. There's several angels, but the main one is, her name is Aziel. And one day Aziel took me into their courtyard, and then she had all of her ancestors up here. And it's the darndest thing, because, somebody's 300 years old, they ought to look a little old. They don't, they look like they're in their mid-20s. They all do. This whole bunch of just very good looking young people are her ancestors. So I don't question it. I just say, well, that's what I see. I guess that's how it is. I have read that once you die, if you're in the spirit world, and I guess if you're a good person, then your age decrements with time. You don't increase like we do. You decrement to about the age of 25 or 30. That being the optimum age for all of us. Beautiful place. You like it when you get there, trust me.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
As it's about time.
Yeah. Bobby, any question for Bobby or Dean?
Paul G, everybody loves to have that kind of a scene over there.
People with what?
Yeah, no, it's a great experience. Yeah, no, thank you. I think, like others saying, we are kind of on the edge of the time. Well, thank you so much for your kindness to spending time with all of us and sharing your beautiful experience and vision. And like Charanjeev ji requested, maybe put a prayer for everybody's sake, that may everybody have some level of connectivity, experience, exposure with God's grace. so that, our trust and faith can increase in that domain. And the journey on the other side may it continue with kindness and love. May there be nothing but peace in everybody's life. And may there be comfort and harmony, so that we as human beings can live with, more compassion, so that we can be of value to each other, and hopefully, God willing, connect everybody to wherever it needs to be connected. So again, thank you so much from all of us for your time, kindness, and let the journey continue.
Well, thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you both, Paul.
If you want to buy a copy of this book, you can get it at Amazon.
Sure. Thank you.
All good.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Paul.